And we are live. Okay, so let's start. Just state your name for the camera.
Delores Jean Braun.
Okay, and Dolores, what's your earliest memory?
Earliest memory. The only memory I really have clearly was when I was about 8 years old. My mom had just bought me a pair of roller skates.
Okay.
And I was out roller skating on the sidewalk. It was uneven, and I kept falling. So I went in and got my dad's belt and 2 pillows and tied one to the front and one to my back. And my mom, oops, that's moving.
It's okay.
My mom came out, she said, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, Mom." So I went out, I hooked up the pillows and went out and started skating and falling. And I happened to turn around and look. My mom was standing on the porch watching me and laughing. That's a real clear memory. I was about 8 years old.
Well, that's pretty smart for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I was getting tired of you falling on my butt and my face.
So what was the home and neighborhood like you grew up in?
Oh, we grew up in many neighborhoods. It was in Pennsylvania, a little town called Mount Union. I was born in my aunt's house in 1947, May 28th. We were living, I don't even know where my mom was living when I got delivered. We lived in a house most of the years. It was called the Pagana House. It was a speakeasy during the roaring 20s, and it was haunted. And it had a wraparound porch. I remember playing house in that pit, putting blankets up and playing house with crackers and stuff for dinner and stuff like that. And it was haunted. I can remember Mom waking us up saying, "We got to get out of the house. We got to get out of the house." There was smoke, or she thought it was smoke in the house, and there was nothing there. So, and it was called the Pagana House. And I saw a man one night at the foot of my bed in the middle of summer with red eyes, scared the bejesus out of me. We lived there for a long time. And then before that, when I was 8 years old, we were living in Kistler, Lower Kistler by the river. That's where I did the roller skating.
Okay.
And then we moved to Ohio in 1960, Akron, Ohio.
What was Ohio like?
It was okay. It was flat. We lived over by the Rubber Bowl Stadium and Derby Downs. I don't know if you've heard of Derby Downs, where they have the kids build their own racers and race down a hill. We lived close to that. And my niece came to live with us, and we went over during the Derby, and we were at the bottom where they come down, and I had her up on my shoulders, and Paul Anka was one of the people that come down, and she was a cute little stinker. And he come down, walked up to her and give her a kiss, and I'm like, oh. So it was nice. It was where they built the blimps in Akron, Ohio is where we lived. Hillbeach Avenue and Quail Drive.
Okay.
In a brand new house.
Who were your role models or heroes when you were growing up?
Gosh, I don't. Some of those memories aren't there. Captain Kangaroo. I don't know. I don't have too many when I was younger. Well, maybe my dad. He was my hero.
That's a good one.
Because he always kissed me goodbye. He was a long-distance truck driver. I always stood up on the dining room.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, he'd always kiss me goodbye, and I always looked forward to him coming home. And I can't think of, up until I was in my teens, just playing and horsing around, and I don't remember doing too much hero worshiping.
Okay. What was the culture like when you were a kid compared to now? How are things different? And
it was a lot closer family life. We never locked our doors. We had family squabbles, but a lot closer. My grandmother paid us an allowance. She'd come over and give us 50 cents a week to spend. That was my mom's mom.
Okay.
My grandfather lived down the street from the Pagana house. He had a little house that he built, and he used to make doll furniture. And I'd go down and sit, and maybe he was a hero too. I admired. He'd make doll cradles and chairs and stuff by hand and give them as presents and stuff. And he had snow white hair and a pompadour like I've got. It was a lot less violent. People were closer. It seemed like they cared more.
Okay. Maybe a stronger sense of community.
Yeah. It was a small town. So, by the railroad tracks, there was trains going by all the time. I do remember that.
Okay. What was your first job?
Akron Children's Hospital in Akron, Ohio. Before that, I babysat until I graduated high school. Then I went down and applied for the dietary in Akron, Ohio Children's Hospital. And I worked in the employees' cafeteria. So I served the food and set up stuff, made coffee.
Okay. Well, what did you learn from that?
I don't know. Actually, that's where I learned I really like helping people, serving, doing things for people.
So what did you end up doing for your career?
Oh gosh, I had many careers.
Start from the beginning.
Well, Akron, Ohio, and that was during my party years. I decided to move to Florida with some friends, and that's where I got involved in working in nurses' aid. I worked in hospitals and dietary for a while, a couple hospitals, Clearwater, Florida. And then I got into working as a CNA, nurses' aid. I took 2 courses there. I worked in nursing homes, about 3 nursing homes down there. Then I moved out here in 79. And then I worked for, every time that goes off, people look for my cats. It's a clock.
Oh.
I got out here and I worked for, I can't remember the name of it. It was a nursing home across the street from St. Mark's Hospital.
Okay.
I worked there for a while. Then I moved to another one out in West Jordan. And then, when I lived in Florida, I worked for a orange packing factory where people at Christmas time would order fresh fruits and vegetables, the oranges and grapes and stuff, folding boxes. Then when I moved out here, I worked in nursing homes. And then after that, I worked for a company that made printed checks for banks. Mm. And then I got into Marriott working for, I worked as an operator at a doctor's office, a big one, Bangor. I can't remember the name of it. Anyhow, I worked there for about 4 years and then got a job at Marriott in the rewards department for 7 years for them. And then I fired in 2011.
What was your favorite of all those jobs?
The nurse's aid job. I loved that. I loved helping the older people, taking care of them. That's my most favorite. And I liked Marriott because I got to talk to many people across the world and helping them spend their points because they earned points every time they stayed in a hotel.
Oh, so you'd help them maximize
so they earned points, and I helped them get their points spent.
Any notable stories or crazy stories, funny stories, anything like that you want to share from?
Oh gosh, I got a ton of them.
Your work life?
In my work life?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can tell some of them.
Well, those are the ones we want.
Okay. All right. In one of the nursing homes down in, it was here. We had, I don't remember where. Yeah, there's a place out in Murray that I worked. They get mixed up. All right. In the one place in Florida, there was this older couple. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't remember their names, but I remember the incident. And they were walking down the hall, and she always wore stockings, but they had fallen down. And her boyfriend stopped, pulled her dress up over her head, and pulled her stockings up. And then one time we couldn't find them both, so we went looking for them, and they were in her room, laying in her bed, and he was on top. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't remember. And then another little lady there. I don't remember names, but I just remember them. She was the cutest, white-haired, like Roberta's hair is pure white. She had this pure white, wavy hair. She was a lady from back, when you didn't cuss. And I said, oh, shit. And she said, ladies, do not cuss. You say, well, what do I say? She said, you say cussity, cussity, cussity. I remember that. And it's just helping people and loving them, And I'd walk up behind them in their wheelchairs and shake them. Say, earthquake, earthquake. And they say, all right, cut it out, Delores. That's some
fun.
of the stories. But
those are good stories.
And the good ones are the people you talk to in another country. Mm-hmm. They'd be really angry. In fact, I got a reward for a good customer care. He was so angry, and I talked him out of being angry and gave him extra points. And I love doing stuff like that. I like helping people. That's why life is kind of rough right now. I can't do a lot.
Makes sense, yeah. So let's get into your family life a little bit. Did you have kids? Did you get married?
Nope, I'm the old maid of the family. Had a lot of boyfriends back in my wild days. No children.
Any crazy boyfriends you want to mention, or?
No, I was quite promiscuous when I was in my 20s. Into drugs, not heavy, but marijuana and drinking and partying. And I can tell a story about we were out drinking. The guy had a mail truck that he had bought, and I was sitting in the back, and we were roaring down the street, and he decided to go through some woods, and we were falling down trees, and he slammed on the brakes, and my head hit the chair.
Oh, wow.
And I got whiplash really bad. Woke up like this one day. For about 10 days, I was disabled. Crazy stuff like that. In Florida, I hung out in a biker bar. Don't remember this. Biker bar, and rode home with a guy. I was quite a wild lady on a motorcycle, so we went out after the bar closed, and I got on the bike, and he dropped the bike and me. I did, being religious now, that's the only thing that saved me was God was looking out for me, because we drove 50 miles to another city or another small town. I don't know how we got there. I don't even remember getting home the next morning. So this a lot of crazy stuff.
Just it's lucky you survived, it sounds like.
Yeah, we used to go to the beach in Clearwater, Florida, and of course back in them days I was skinny, and I wear a halter top and short cutoffs, and playing frisbee in the sun. I got sunburnt so bad that I got heat stroke and just blistered all over.
Oh.
I don't know how I survived. Yeah, I do. God was looking out for me. Is that enough?
We'll take as many as we get. Any like near-death experiences you want to share, or?
Other than that crash, no.
No. Okay.
No, but I do see spirits. Always have.
Tell us about that.
The incident I was telling you about, my mother showing us out of the house for the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Always saw a lot of stuff there.
There was a fire at the house?
No, there wasn't. It was just a mist.
Oh, okay.
And it was spirits. And then the man at the end of my bed, I was terrified in that house.
So how did that happen? You were asleep and you woke up? Or?
Yeah, I was asleep and I woke up and I'm laying there and it was summertime. And there was a real tall guy at the end of my bed. Yeah, he must have been about 6'1", 6'2". Had red glowing eyes. It just totally scared me to death. And of course my sister wouldn't wake up.
And he just sat there and stared at you?
Yeah, and then I finally got scared enough I pulled the blankets up over my head and laid there and shook until I could feel him was still there. And then it went away.
How old were you when that happened?
About 9, 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
In your whole life you've had, experiences similar like that?
When I lived over on the apartments on Main Street there, they're U-shaped.
Okay.
I lived in the corner on the 4th floor, and the building was U-shaped, and I could see the apartments across the way. A guy had passed away there, and I knew them. And I was sitting there watching. The police had the wife outside, and he always he was a vet, wore his vet hat. He come walking out. He was dead. He died in his sleep.
So was this the night he died?
The day he died.
The day he died.
It was broad daylight.
Okay.
He come walking out of the apartment and walked down to the elevator. Nobody saw him, but I saw him. He was actually like I can see you. He was solid things. And I've had stuff happen to the apartment down 305. A guy died in there of overdose. And I kept seeing stuff there.
What kind of stuff?
A shadow going into the bathroom, from the kitchen to the bathroom. And then he must have followed me because he kept knocking my Celtic cross off of my bookshelf. And I told him, look, this is my house now. You're welcome to stay, but cut this shit out. I'm a good Mormon, yeah. Just dreams. And another lady passed away over in that building. And it was like one morning I woke up, she was standing by my bed. And she was smiling at me, so. And I did go to the temple and did my mother's temple work. And I'm in the font, and being only 5'1", the water comes up to here on me. And when they do baptism, they do like 10 and the water gets really sloshy. And I'm there, oh my gosh. And I looked up, they have a bench where the other ones wait to come in.
Right.
My mother was sitting up there. And
so while you were getting baptized for her?
While I was getting baptized for her.
You saw her up sitting?
Yeah. And she was there the whole time.
Wow.
So
were some of these positive, some of these negative experiences when you see her, or is it always?
At first, when I was young, that guy, that was a negative. But most of them since then have been a positive because that tells me there's life after this life. Mm-hmm. And they're still here. It's just another dimension. So I never get scared anymore. A lot of people get freaked out.
You're used to it?
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Well, what, any major world events that you remember living through?
Oh, when Kennedy was killed.
What was that like?
Oh, I was in junior high school, and we were sitting in, I can't remember what class it was.
So you were in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Akron, Ohio.
So you were in Ohio?
Yeah, higher high school, junior high.
Okay.
We were in class, and the teacher, Mr. Rupp, come in and told the lady what was going on, and she started crying. We're going, what? So they come over the announcement that President Kennedy had been shot and killed. And then they sent everybody home. So I go home and started watching
the news.
Watching the news, and they showed him, and Lee Harvey Oswald being shot. I remember that. And then before that, I remember the first astronaut going up. I was in.
I'll get to that one.
Okay.
What was the? I guess what was the culture, the vibe like when Kennedy died? What do you remember about that?
The only thing it's Camelot. type. There was a lot of new things going on. I don't know. It wasn't. Well, that's whenever Russia put the nuclear
bombs
missiles
in
Cuba. That was kind of scary because we were there, oh my gosh, we're going to get blown up. But I don't know, it's kind of like Camelot. I mean, I thought he was a good president, even though if he was a womanizer.
Yeah.
It was kind of new because that's when computers and technology was growing. So It was really fascinating.
So you were also alive when the astronauts landed on the moon.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was cool. I have always wanted to. I believe in UFOs. I've always wanted to go into space.
See what's up there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that would be cool.
What was it like in your community when those things happened? Was it?
I think typical. Everybody was sad and couldn't believe that a president was killed in our day and age.
Right.
So and then, yeah, I don't know. I don't think of it as negative. It was interesting. History.
Yeah. What about like the civil rights movement? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember the shootings at university. The kids that were protesting the Vietnam War.
Oh yeah.
And then I've never been prejudiced because I grew up around black people.
Up in the north and.
Yeah, in Akron, Ohio, and in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I grew up with black kids. Played with them. So I thought that was pretty cool that they get the vote. And just, it's kind of like I'm watching all this and wondering, why are people being this way?
Right. Do you remember seeing any I mean, obviously you were a kid during the time, but do you remember maybe seeing any examples of racism as a kid, or was it not as prevalent in your neighborhood?
It was in the small communities. It wasn't as prevalent. I mean, kind of was because the blacks had their section that they lived in and the whites had their, but I never looked at it as, I never realized that it was anti-race.
Yeah.
So never thought of it that way.
It really, you were kind of the first generation of integration, and so
yeah,
you kind of grew up in it, but it wasn't really your.
Wasn't one of my thing.
Yeah. It was, you guys were the first generation to be integrated and grow up together.
Yeah.
So it's interesting your perspective on things having to basically overcome segregation.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just grew up with a spirit that never felt that I was better than anybody else.
Did you see other people that had that attitude as a kid, or you just didn't kind of notice it?
No. I remember fighting with a black kid, but this kid tried to steal my bike. That wasn't because he was black.
No, it was just
because
he was trying to steal your bike.
Yeah.
What other big events in history do you remember living through?
Well, whenever the crazy guy in California that killed all the people, what's his name? I want to say Mason or
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. I remember seeing that on TV and wondering because he was a hippie.
Yeah.
That was during my hippie time too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was horrible.
What about like Jim Jones? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember seeing it on TV, thinking how horrible it is.
Yeah.
See, and then back when that kind of started, when I lived in Florida, is where I started getting into the church.
Okay.
The
LDS church?
Mm-hmm.
Is that why you came to Utah?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Okay, I was baptized in Clearwater, Florida.
Okay. How did you get in touch with the LDS people?
They had please excuse me, long haul COVID makes me weird.
That's okay.
Where I did my laundry, they had a poster, Christ in America, kind of similar. He's where they show him coming to the Nephites and Lamanites.
Okay.
He's standing on steps, and it says Christ in America. And at that time, I've been kind of looking through religion because I always believed in God.
Okay.
Because I was Catholic, went to catechism and all that. So I turned in the card, and they sent to missionaries to come teach me. Well, they started teaching me, and I said, okay, this sounds good. But I can't believe that was during my hippie party days. I'd sit with t-shirt and short shorts and no underwear on, and these young men are trying to teach me and no bra. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. But finally, I decided I'm going to dress proper. And they give me a Book of Mormon, and I was reading it, and Alma 32:32. They put the gospel as like a mustard seed. If you plant it, it'll grow if you water it and feed it. Well, I didn't think it was doing it, so I threw the Book of Mormon away. Then I thought, wait a minute. So I went back and read it, and after that it says that you have to study, you have to water it and feed it to have it grow. So that's whenever they challenged me after 5 sets of missionaries.
So you gave them a hard time.
I did. I even hid in my closet when they were knocking at my door. My dog was standing outside. What are you doing, Mom? There's somebody at the door. But I was finally baptized, and it's been good since. I mean, I've had my ups and downs, but yeah. One good story. They were telling about how the blacks couldn't have the priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
And when I knew what that was, are you aware of what the priesthood is?
Yeah.
Are you LDS?
I was.
It's your choice. The blacks couldn't hold the priesthood. I'm not going to join a church that doesn't allow everybody. The blacks should have the right.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of grinned because that's whenever President Kimball received.
So that's when they integrated as well.
That's where he said that they could get the priesthood. That's when he received the revelation. It was during that time that I was being taught.
So that was like 1978, right?
Yeah, I was baptized in 78.
So like right as that happened.
So that's okay. So I've always wanted look for the main 3 things that the church teaches. Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? Nobody ever really clearly explained any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of funny when they told me about President Kimball getting the revelation. They come back and they're sitting there grinning at me. I says, I'm still not going to join. I don't know why you're here. And they did that little grin like you got. Read this. And okay, I guess I don't have any excuse. So that's when I got baptized in 78.
As soon as they integrated. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say was the happiest time in your life?
I think after I joined a church and become active.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've always had bad health. But yeah, and then getting to go to the temple. That was, I went there in 1980.
Okay.
No, yeah. That was the best time. Because you go in there and it tells you everything.
Right.
And it's true. So, but everybody has a choice. You can believe me or you don't. That's your choice. You're going to have to answer to that man right there.
That's right. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Quit messing around with drugs and drinking and men. Yeah, just get your act together.
Get your act together.
And I love you because I didn't think I was loved. I mean, there's a few childhood things that happened that influence you. So, yeah.
I think that's a huge message for a lot of young people today, especially, is just knowing that they can love themselves.
Well, I think, one thing that made a big impact in me was I used to draw. I'm kind of creative. I like to do things. And I had a ruler, and I had wrote on the back, Delores J. Braun, if found, if lost, return to me. And I put my phone number, and I put a little phrase saying, it's needed. And my brothers thought that was so stupid. You're so stupid. that stuck with me until I was in my 20s. Didn't realize, and I didn't realize really that my parents loved me because I was abused as a child also by neighborhood guys. I won't go into the story. But that makes you feel like you're not loved. Why are people hurting me? I must be bad. And my parents told me they loved me, but I didn't really get it until I went on with my mother. She told me once, the reason I was kind of not really close to you is when you were born, I wanted a boy. And she did. I was born in my aunt's house. She wouldn't touch me for 3 days. And babies know that.
They need that.
They need that connection with their mom. So that's another reason I didn't feel loved. But she told me, she says, I loved you, and you were the one kid that I expected to do great things or do good things. So, and then my dad told me he was proud of me when I went on my mission. He sent me a letter that I want to cry, that I am proud that you're doing this, because that really, I knew I was loved.
Tell us about your mission.
Oh boy, that was the hardest thing I have done all my life.
Well, let's hear
but I loved it. Okay, my name is Delores, and the Spanish meaning of my name is sorrowful and painful. I'm not sorrowful, but I've had a lot of pain in my life, but I'm not sorrowful. So my German grandmother named me that, German English grandmother. So when I went on my mission, of course, my nickname is Dee Dee. It was hard to get used to Delores. It was great. It was scary.
Where'd you go?
Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
Went to the MTC. That was hard because back then, this is 85. You had to learn the discussions.
Yeah, you had to
memorize it. The flip charts and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't memorize very well. But so they had little cartoon things to help me memorize. That was rough, but I still was excited to do it, to share it, because after I joined, I was just gung-ho. Went through the MTC, and then I think the worst part of it was getting on the airplane. That was the only second time I was in an airplane, and I'm just like carrying my bags in, and I was pure white. I was just like, and the stewardess, are you okay? I said, no, but I will be. And you sit there taking on your... I was fine. I should have realized the Lord's going to take care of me because he has all my life.
Yeah.
So we got there and went into the mission home there where you had a little more training, and then they send you out on your companionships. Yeah, I really liked that. It was hard for me because I was really overweight. And we had a walking one. Had a car once, but halfway through, like my second area, we were allowed to do it on our own words. And then I baptized or taught 6 people. And they're all still active as far as I know, but that was fun. I love the different cultures. I served in Calgary at the end, and they have a lot of people from India there. My first area was it was called Cherry Grove. It was right on the border of Saskatchewan and Alberta, and they had an Air Force base up there. A lot of French people. Same way in Calgary. But when we got to our first area in Cherry Grove, we had to stay at the bishop's house because the lady that was going to let us stay in her house was going on a mission. Mm. The thing I remember most is the bishop called us out to the road, and it was back in the boonies, and we saw the northern lights. There was trees off to the back, and you could see these huge waves of like curtains of colors. And then they shot out and did pinwheels over the head. I had never seen anything like that in my life. I'll never forget it. And then when we moved in the house, up there it gets so cold you have to plug the block in to keep it from cracking and freezing the car. I went out to plug it in, and there's the northern lights. Of course, I'm standing out there, and they snap, crackle, and pop.
Mm.
Didn't know they did that. So, and then when people were baptized, it was cool. And the cultures, the food, man, I was
It's a whole
in
new
heaven.
world.
Yeah. I even tried making fudge and candy. Can't because my hands are so warm. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, my last question is, what legacy or message would you like to give to future generations down the line?
Cat. Hi, Sam, Susie. Future generation, if anybody sees this.
Yeah, maybe 6, 7 generations down the line, what would you want them to know?
Well, at that time, I hope there is still a world. You know, be true to yourself. Listen to that inner voice, this voice that will tell you the truth. And I would hope that you have some kind of religion that you live and believe in, and love people and love yourself.
I think that's great. That's all the questions we have. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up?
No, but I'd like testimony of the gospel, but I believe it's true, the things that I've been through my life.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the gospel in my life, I'd probably be dead. Because, like I said, my name means painful. Been through a lot, and I would have committed suicide if I didn't have that faith.
Sounds like your faith has helped you.
Through a lot of stuff.
Helped you love yourself, help you forgive.
Love everybody.
Get through a lot of really hard things.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and I tell everybody, if you see this, give this to everybody. It means I love you. Take that with you. Keep it going. And like I said, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Perfect. Well, this has been a pleasure.